Go, the XTS with extended magazine. See how we do.
Oh! Oh, toast!
Pretty sure you can tell PS9 today. We're gonna use some herder. There we go. Not too bad. Not too bad. That is good stuff. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Lone Wolf conversion barrel. This particular conversion barrel, it takes the Glock Model 22 chambered in .40 caliber to a 9mm. And before we get started, I want to just kind of tell you what I did for my preliminary testing. I tested a total of 300 rounds at the range, 2 different types of ammunition. The first was the Winchester White Box and 115 grain full metal jacket, and also the Blazer aluminum that was 115 grain as well, full metal jacket. Anyway, I'm going to roll in some footage, show you kind of what happened for me at the range. But while I'm doing that, I want to talk to a little bit about the reason I got this barrel and why some of you might want it as well. The reason for my purchase was very simple, and that is really the cost of ammunition. And you know, frankly, while I'm a fan of the .40 caliber round for practice and what have you, 9mm, you know, works perfectly, and it's cheaper. Well, at least, you know, up until recently. And that was really the whole reason for why I got this. Now, why some of you guys might want to get this. Maybe you have a wife or small children or someone who's recoil shy. This would be a fantastic addition to your Glock. It is less punch from what I understand than the .40 caliber. And the reason I say it that way is I can't tell a big difference, and I've never really understood the recoil thing. However, my wife, and she shoots all of our guns, she shoots them really well, but she could tell a big difference. And when I asked her which she was more comfortable shooting, the .40 caliber or the 9mm, she said the 9mm hands down. So, you know, that could be a reason, you know, for you as well. But getting to the reliability. Reliability, as you guys know, especially in the Generation 4, they had some problems early on in the 9mm. So the Glock 17 and 19 especially. And the problem lied with, this is a safety check weapon, by the way. The problem lied with this new, what they call double nested recoil spring. Right here. Now, as most of you probably know, in the Generation 3 and before, this was just a single spring, and really it worked flawlessly for many, many years. With the Generation 4, Glock decided they wanted to change a few different things, like the stippling, or I guess the grip on the handle. That would give you a better purchase on the gun, which I personally like. They also give you the opportunity, or I guess the option for removable back straps if you have a bigger hand. I personally don't care for that option. I don't need it. More of a streamline, I guess, mag release. Let's see, there's the finish is a lot more durable, and it is very nice. But the recoil spring is the crux of what the point I'm trying to make here. With this recoil spring came reliability issues. And the problem is this small 9mm or smaller 9mm round couldn't actuate that slide all the way back, so they were getting failure to eject. Okay, so matter of fact, Glock, there was a voluntary recall on this, and you know, if you have such and such serial number, you can, you know, send your Glock in, or maybe they just send you a spring. I'm not quite sure. But the whole reason we're talking about this is, because I knew this information, frankly I anticipated a lot of problems with this barrel. So just to kind of let you know how I did through the two different ammunitions that I put through it. The Winchester white box, and I chose that specifically because that was supposed to be one of the ammo brands that had most problems with it, I guess. But anyway, it worked flawlessly for me, at least in 3 boxes, which is 150 rounds, of course. I didn't have one problem, and that surprised me. As far as the Blazer was concerned, I had problems about every 50 rounds, and that was, of course, a failure to eject. And one thing I did notice with the extraction is it tended to extract rearward. So, I'd get some in my face or in my head, or you'll see here, one goes down my shirt. And, I thought that was a little bit strange because it doesn't, it doesn't extract that way for the .40 caliber. I guess it is a different diameter, and that might make, a little bit of sense. But one thing that turned me on to this is, the fact that that's really all it took was to drop a barrel in, just as simple as you would drop your own barrel in. It's really that simple. You just put that in, put your spring in, and that's all there's to it. There's no, you don't have to change the ejector, you don't have to do all that. Now, for those of you who are expecting any sort of reliability with this, I would strongly recommend that you go down to at least an 11-pound spring. That would give you a better, I think it's going to give you better odds at chambering that 9mm round. Or really better yet, just go and spring for the, Glock 17 or Glock 19. But anyway, moving on to the competition, what other competitors they have out there. There's all kinds of competitors, I'm sure, but the two I was looking at was the Storm Lake and the Barstow. Now, Storm Lake is fairly competitive as far as cost is concerned. It's a little more expensive, but they offer pretty much the same barrels. And then Barstow, they were a bit more expensive. I think theirs started out in the 200s. Now, for just a standard Lone Wolf, I think the website posts them at 109, and then of course they go on up. For instance, for threaded barrels, you're going to be paying more and all that. But to talk a little bit about the kind of barrels that they do have, they have got just standard barrels, which would be like a generic equivalent of a Glock barrel. They've got extended barrels, which would add, I don't know, just guessing, but 2 inches on your barrel. And I don't know too much about that. I could only guess that is to give you just a little bit more velocity. That's all I can think of. Then, of course, they have ported barrels. Now, the ported barrels, for those of you who don't know, there's going to be ports in your barrel, or little I guess holes, for lack of a better term. And the whole reason for that is, I guess, 2 things. There's going to be, or supposedly, there's less felt recoil, and then, of course, it's for, quicker follow-up shots, so you can stay on target. The only downside of that, from what I understand, is, the gases and all the stuff that's escaping can dirty up your front sight. Now, I don't know if that's a legitimate claim. I've never shot a ported barrel, so I cannot attest to that at all. But that's just what I've heard. And then, of course, it brings us to the threaded variety, which is what I have. Now, the threaded barrels, of course, is going to be for a suppressor or silencer, however you want to say it. And also, I guess I've seen a muzzle brake on a Glock. But that's really all it would be for. And, of course, that's what we have here. So, in the way of competition, I chose the Lone Wolf simply because it was the cheapest. That's what I found, and really, it's worked okay. It suits me fine. As far as the rating of this barrel, I would personally I would say I'd have to rate it at about an 8.5. And the reason I say that is, for my purpose at the range, it filled that niche. It was just to shoot 9mm. This is not something I'm going to use as my defensive carry. I mean, of course, I'll use the Glock 22 as my defensive carry, but I would never put this in for my defensive carry. It's just not reliable enough. And if I was going to do that, like I said, I would just go get a Glock 17 or 19 or whatever you'd like. You know, I dock it, of course, because of the reliability, because of the ejection, but it really doesn't bother me that much. For a day at the range, that's, you know, is perfectly fine, you know, and especially working on failure drills, you know, 1 in 50, that's perfectly fine. You know, after all, the range is where you would want to experience, you know, a failure, you know, as opposed to in your home and late dark night. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more videos. Thanks.